Get strong.
Well, a very, very happy Wednesday morning to everyone. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Throw-In with Justin here on this fine, beautiful day right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. It's been a while. You got to bear with me. We're back at it again. Appreciate everyone that is taking the journey with me. And we're excited to be back. It's been a long several months, and the first thing I'm going to start off by saying it's September 7th. All right, let's get our heads on right here on a Wednesday. And you wake up in the morning and you realize, and you smell the fresh air. You go outside and it's still pretty warm outside. It's going to be like that for the next month or two. But you wake up in the morning, all right, out here on the East Coast, and you smell you could start smelling the autumn fall. You start hearing, or you start, the heat that you feel in September is not the same heat that you have in August, right? And definitely, hey, thank goodness I'm not out there on the West Coast where it's blazing 100 degrees out there right now, this heat wave that's going out there. But there is just a vibe, there's just a feeling in the air. You got college football that just got underway this past weekend. You got the NFL that's starting up tomorrow. It is September. You have the road to October that starts here right now, and you feel it. There's a sense of urgency. There's an energy level that comes through the month of September, October, November, and I think a lot of it has to do because of football being back in the NFL this year. And I think a lot of people are excited, especially I know in my area, people are excited about the Cincinnati Bengals, and we'll talk plenty of that as the season progresses this season and this year. But I'm excited to be back. We got a lot of stuff to go over, a lot of stuff to talk about, plenty of things to recap and to move forward on this sports show. So we enjoy everyone who tunes in and listens, and like I said, we want to hear from you, so leave comments down below, DM me, let me know what you guys think on these topics. But you know what the biggest thing is coming out of this on this Wednesday is that, hey, we're less than 36 hours from NFL kicking off between the Buffalo Bills and the Los Angeles Rams. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to put everything over the next 2 days, give you guys enough information over the next 2 days and my predictions and whatnot. And I'm going to talk, we're going to start talking about the NFL. We're going to do a lot of heavenly talking about the NFL. But I think tomorrow morning is when I'm going to give you my initial predictions. And I was thinking about that. I was like, okay, so what should I give you guys on the beginning of the season? And I don't want to sit here and name my Super Bowl prediction because I think that is too out of basis. There's like 22 teams in the NFL this season that could possibly, make it to the Super Bowl. And I think it's a little too early. So come back with me during the playoffs and I'll give you who I think is my favorite team. But so I'm going to give you my predictions though on who is going to win each division and who could possibly be a wild card contenders. So that's going to be tomorrow. I want you guys to tune into that, listen to that, let me know what you guys agree on or disagree on. And then, but today, what I was thinking about today is really kind of talking and breaking down in depth the AFC North. in some of the other divisions and the struggles that we're having. Because, I know Cincinnati fans, there's a reason to be excited. And I think, in this area, there's, this is why this area, northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area is really excited, is because obviously the Reds is not playing well. You have the Bearcats who went to, who represented their league and went to the NCAA playoff tournament. And we'll talk about that later on, as the CFP is expected to expand to 12-game playoffs. And there's just, the fall season football is back. There's just something that fans like about it out here, and they take a gravel to. It's been a while since Cincinnati fans, sports fans, have gotten the chance to have something that is, worth celebrating for. The Bengals are going to be opening up, game day this Sunday against the Steelers at Paycor Stadium. I know a lot of people are excited about that, and it's against the Steelers, and there's plenty of Steeler conversations about the league. So I want to break down into the league. We got some baseball going on here, while the Reds are going to play game 2 today of a 3-game series against the Chicago Cubs. And I want to give you my thoughts on that. We'll dive into the Major League Baseball standings, because although the Reds ain't playing fair enough baseball to contend for a playoff spot, the race is hot. The race is heated, and there is a lot of and so I want to break that down, tell you who's in, who's out, what to look forward to if you're looking to catch up on any baseball today. And then we'll get into some AEW. I was looking on social media this morning. There was a couple of things expected to take place. A couple of matches. I heard, at least from what I read, that MJF is supposed to make an appearance tonight, and I think I'm excited to hear what he has to say. And for the first time in a while, I have been encouraged to watch or to tune into WWE, and it's been a while, okay? But ever since SummerSlam, you've been kind of keeping a close attention, whether you're watching it actually on a day-to-day basis, or you're, maybe just tuning in on the highlights. And I've been tuning in on the highlights as of late, just because, there's this new era and this new aura that is brought into the WWE that, for me, it's still so unsurreal that Vince McMahon's out, Triple H is in. There's changes, and I think these are good changes, and I'll dive into that a little bit later on in our program. But there are plenty of changes that are being made. But are those changes good enough? And is this the long-term solution for the WWE? All right, is Triple H being at the reins, being creative control, is that the long-term plan? Or is that something that is temporary and is given to you just for a temporary basis? So we'll talk about that. So we got a lot to talk about here on our show. We're just getting underway on a Wednesday morning. I want to step aside, and when I come back, we'll go ahead and get right down into the Cincinnati Reds and their highlights from last night, where the Reds lost to the Chicago Cubs 9-3 at Wrigley Field. And as a season that is obviously has not been the greatest, probably one to forget. They have a few more weeks left, and for those baseball fans out there, I think that is still there's an urge, and I encourage everyone to still support the Reds as they try to finish off this final stretch. All right, we're just getting ready here on a Wednesday. We're going to take a timeout. We'll step right back. We got a lot to cover, taking you up until 11 o'clock here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Albert Elmore Jr., the former Cub here. Madrigal to Horner, and he threw it away. And everybody's going to be safe. Kyle Horner. Looped in the air down the right field line, and that one is going to fall and kicks past Suzuki. India's going to score, and then they're going to send Almora. He comes in to score, and Farmer ends up at third. It's 2-0.
Ian Happ, Reds in a pronounced shift.
Happ drills that one out towards left center field, and it's gone. Ian Happ with his 16th, and he continues to clobber the Cincinnati Reds. A run back makes it 2-1.
2-1 Reds in the third, and the batter is Kyle Farmer. And Kyle Farmer, a 3-1 Reds lead, and all the ribbies posted by Farmer.
3-1 as we go to the top of the fifth. Hayden Wisniewski coming in to make his major league debut with just about 20 friends and family in attendance. We just showed you right there. Welcome to Wrigley, Hayden.
Outside corner, see you later. Good start for the rookie, his major league debut. That was his brother Cole, pumped up.
2 away, it'll bring up Seiya Suzuki.
The 1-1. In the air, left field, that one back. Seiya Suzuki will touch them all. We're starting over. It's 3-3.
When you hit a line drive like that to left, it's out of here. The bags are now loaded with 2 down, and Nick Madrigal coming up.
Line drive, base hit right field. Horner is in. Here comes Ortega. It's a 2-run single. Madrigal delivers, and the Cubs have the lead. It's 5-3.
The bases are loaded again. He's got to deal with Morel.
Lined out to left, and it'll fall for a hit. And it's going to score 2. Morel comes through, and it's 7-3.
Bases loaded again.
Reds pitching 15 3-ball counts and 11 walks. That one forces in a run to make it 8-3. Facing Nico Horner here. Nico has been on base 3 times with a walk, a single, and he's been hit by a pitch. In the air, down the line towards the corner, and Fraley can't come up with it. Horner's thinking about 3. Nico around second. And it's a triple.
Here's Ortega with an RBI opportunity.
In the air to center. This will be deep enough to score Nico. And that'll make it 9-3. And Hayden Wisniewski, what a big league debut for this guy. Cubs win. What a debut for Hayden Wisniewski. Gets the W. Welcome to Wrigley, Hayden.
Alrighty, those Reds lost last night. Final score 9-3, and it's a tough loss. It's another kind of a season to forget. Obviously, they're not sitting anywhere nearly perfect by any stretch. I think there's a couple of things you want to look at if you're a baseball fan, if you're a Cincinnati Reds fan. There's 2 things that I think that I made apparent that in September you want to look out for. One, let's play for pride. Obviously, you're out of the playoffs, 53-80. The Cubs are now moved up to 57-78. They're in 3rd place of the division. Let's play for pride. You got a few weeks left. You don't want. I know I don't want, but you don't want to be in the team in last place. Okay, Pittsburgh Pirates are currently in last place, 50 wins, 84 losses, and they're already eliminated from the playoffs. All right, they are eliminated from both the wild card and the division. And the last thing you want to do is to drop back below the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, I would say the hope for the rest of the remainder of the season is for the Reds to, try to finish off in 3rd place, try to overcome the Chicago Cubs and, and try to finish off on a good note. The other thing is I was looking at the schedule here for the Cincinnati Reds, and I'll pop that back up. because I'm also thinking, all right, let's in September, for teams who don't make it to the playoffs, let's play a little bit of spoiler and let's try to ruin some extra playoffs opportunities. You think about this, the rest of the division here is practically with your, or the rest of the season is with your division. You got 2 more games against the Cubs, and then you head on over to Milwaukee for a 3-game series. You'll come home to play 4 against the Pirates, and then 5 against the Cardinals next week. And then you'll have a day off in 2 Mondays from now, or in 2 Mondays. Then you go on to play the Boston Red Sox for a 2-game series, and then you host the Milwaukee Brewers. Then you go on a 3-game road trip to Pittsburgh and Chicago for 6 games, 3 on the road, 3 at home. So if you're, if you're trying to, I would like to play for pride. I would like to be better than the Chicago Cubs. And for me, that's a statement made, especially with everything that has evolved and unraveled this season. So you have another 7-8 games with the Cubs, the great battles, especially at the end of the season. You got 7 more games with the Pirates. Okay, it's the team that you're trying to stay out of last place. But wouldn't it be nice also if you get a chance to ruin a playoff spot for either Milwaukee or St. Louis? Now, St. Louis they have the comfortable lead. They have an 8.5 game lead in the Central over the Milwaukee Brewers. They sit at 80-56, and Milwaukee sits at 71-64. Wouldn't it be nice? I mean, I don't know if you're going to be able to cost or ruin anything for St. Louis. And at this point, me being a fan of Albert Pujols and seeing Yadier Molina and all that stuff, I like to see the Cardinals kind of make it to the playoffs one more time. But wouldn't it be nice to ruin the playoff opportunity against the Milwaukee Brewers? And they have 7 more games against each other. You dive into the standings and you look where Milwaukee's at. They are currently in contingency, 3 games out of the Padres as that third wild card. So it would be nice to see Cincinnati, although they're not having a winning season, to fight, like I said, beat, you could beat the Chicago Cubs, gain that 3rd place position in the division, and then also ruin the playoff opportunity for the Milwaukee Brewers. It's going to be a tough rest of the month. It's going to be a tough pill to swallow for Reds fans, but I think it's in order to at least finish off the year strong. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll break down the standings right now as of today. Where do teams play? Who's in and who's out? Like I said, also coming up a little later on, we'll talk about the AFC North. And I wouldn't be sitting on the Bengals 100% to win the AFC North this year, and I'll explain more. Much more to come, taking you up until 11 here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. $9:27 here on the throw-in. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you guys for tuning in. I am glad to be back. Been a rough past couple of months. Very busy, very a lot of things going on. And we're just trying to get back into the swing of things here on this program. All right. Well, let's take a look into what we are looking as. Let's take a look into the Major League Baseball standings as of Wednesday, September 7th. The Cincinnati Reds are going to be facing Game 2 of a 3-game series with the Chicago Cubs. And they will be playing tonight, 7:40, with Mike Minor on the mound for the Reds. 3-10, 5.98 ERA. taking on Javier Assad. And he has not recorded a win or loss, and his ERA is 0.90. Like I mentioned before the break, I will like to see the Reds obviously not contending in the playoffs this year. One, play for pride. They have an opportunity over the next 3 weeks to win enough games to surpass the Chicago Cubs. Now that means they're going to have to play top-notch baseball. But in order to do that also, for teams that don't win or aren't contending, it'll be nice to play a little bit of let's ruin a playoff opportunity for some of these teams. And I know that the Cincinnati Reds have an opportunity over the next few weeks to kind of ruin the playoff opportunity for Milwaukee. It would be highly doubt that they will ruin the opportunity for the St. Louis Cardinals, but it would be nice just to see exactly, the Reds finish off the season strong. It's September and the sun is setting and it's football season, and there's really no reason out here in Cincinnati to watch Reds baseball other than catching out a few of the younger, kids that are looking to be on the squad next year. But, listen, if you would have told me that beginning the season off 3-22 and to finish and to be in September 53-80, the Reds have taken you for a headache of a roller coaster ride with the loops and the turns and the twists, the left and right, all that fun stuff. And I would just like to see the Reds just finish off on a good note, a good season. That's what I would like. So they play today. I want to dive into the standings and kind of tell you and show you where every team is at right now. For you guys are listening, there's not a lot. I think a lot of teams are in place. You think about look into the New York Yankees. They're sitting at 81 wins, and they're sitting a comfortable 5 games above their division in the East. Then you got the Cleveland Guardians. When you come into the AL Central, out of everything I've noticed, and I was paying attention over the weekend at the AL Central, and I was looking at the 3 teams that are contending, the Guardians, the Twins, the White Sox, and I was like, this is going to be a race down to the finish. Now, it's going to be unfortunate because one of these teams are not going to go to only one of these teams are going to go to the playoffs, and I really like all 3 teams, but I like the battle. Now, the other concerning factor is that we have 3-4 more weeks left of the season, and the Cleveland Guardians currently in first place. They only sit at 70 wins. There's a very good possible chance that there's going to be a team that enters in the playoffs that wins their division without having a 500 record. So I'm not really encouraging that, but it's going to be a good battle if you're in the AL Central with those 3 teams left to battle. The AL West kind of sits alone with the Houston Astros on top 10 games. The Houston Astros do have the best record in the American League. Seattle is sitting behind 77-59, 10 games back, and they look comfortably at a wild card position over in the National League. It's been a while, but Atlanta Braves and the New York Mets are finally tied 85-51. As that battle continues in the month of September in the National League East. Man, 7-3 for the Braves the last 10 games. They won 6 in a row. And thanks to New York losing the last 3 games, finally tying that division. And think about a team, those teams, the Mets have surprised a lot of people, at least in my books. I mean, I knew that the Mets were going to start off good. I knew that they were going to head into the All-Star break good. They're the type of team that stuck around, hung out. So this is a very intriguing moment. The St. Louis Cardinals has a comfortable 8.5 games on their division. Don't see anything changing with that. And then the Dodgers, man, 93 wins after beating the Giants last night. 19 games above the Padres, sitting at 75 and 62. So it looks like, other than maybe a division, I'd just say one division in the AL Central, that every division almost looks to be set in the place. And we'll find that out over the next few weeks. Take a look at the division leaders. Like I mentioned to you guys, the Houston Astros are sitting on top of the AL, of the American League, followed by the New York Yankees. The Cleveland Guardians is afterwards. Tampa Bay Rays currently have that first wild card spot, a game and a half above Toronto. Seattle is in the same position, although there's just 1 point percentage down from Tampa Bay. Toronto holds that last wild card spot, 75 and 60. Baltimore Orioles are in contingency, 3.5 games out of Toronto, 72 and 64. Minnesota and Chicago about 6-7 games. Trying to get down and deep into it. Something we were calling the game back on Monday night, back on Labor Day, between the Giants and the Dodgers. And the one thing I came to mention, you take a look at the Giants, who are 8.5 games back. The Arizona Diamondbacks are 9 games back. And then you also have the Boston Red Sox in the American League. That's also 9 games back of the wild card. I'm not saying that they have a good chance at reaching a playoff spot, but we've seen it time and time again every few years where you see this one team that miraculously has that run, just like last year when the Cardinals had that 17-game run to overcome and surpass the Reds and be the last team into the wild card. I just wouldn't count out these teams that are 7.5, 8, 9 games back of the wild card just quite yet. So over in the National League, you have the Dodgers that stand alone. They're on pace to have the best record in Dodgers history, at 93 and 42. And man, I'll get back to the Dodgers here in a moment. They picked up a victory last night over the Giants. The Atlanta Braves and the New York Mets, they're tied for second, but yet again, the loser is going to be the head of the wild card team. St. Louis Cardinals had that third position in the division. The wild card currently right now between the Atlanta Braves and the Mets, Philadelphia and the Padres are neck and neck in the wild card position. Milwaukee, like I said, 3 games out. And like you tie it back around to Cincinnati. If you're Cincinnati or if you're any other team, all right, Colorado, Arizona, if you're Chicago, Washington, if you're if you're Detroit or Kansas City, you're not in the playoffs this year. It's well said, but trying to maybe ruin a playoff opportunity for one of your division teams that are trying to fight in at this time. That's what makes baseball interesting. Every game here on out, especially for teams that are contending, right? They are playoff atmosphere. And you take a look into today's games and things to watch out for, right? San Diego's playing Arizona. You have the Mets over in Pittsburgh. That's the game that's kicking off at 12:35. Matter of fact, they actually have a double header. So the first game is at 12:35, and then the second game is at 6:35. So they'll have a chance to get one leg up above the Braves at the end of today. If you're Pittsburgh, you would like to win both of those games. Twins over in New York. If you're looking for today's games, Twins over in New York. First game's at 3:05. Then they have a double header for a makeup from yesterday. Milwaukee's over in Colorado. The Dodgers and Giants wrap up a 3-game series today at 4:10 Eastern. Chicago's over in Seattle today as well. So, there's selective games. Miami's in Philadelphia. Mentioned the Reds and the Cubs at 7:40. And you also have the Cleveland Guardians and the Kansas City Royals playing later on tonight as well. Here's my take on the playoff spot. I feel like every team, the playoff division is all put into place. All right. We saw this past week in the Padres winning 1 of 3 games against the Dodgers. And one thing that has been told on the West Coast from time and time and time again, and you could say the same thing for the American League, is that there's always that one team that that you have to be in that league. All right. You think of the last several years, other than the year that the Dodgers have won the World Series back in 2020. You think of all the other years, all the other teams that have won the World Series have had to go through the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're the epiphany of baseball today. At this point, they're considered to be better than the New York Yankees, than the Boston Red Sox of the world. The Dodgers are the stepping stone. And if you, especially in the National League, if you are the Padres or the Phillies, I'd say even if you're the Cardinals or you're the Mets, or even the Braves, the Dodgers are the team that you have to beat. If you don't beat the Dodgers, then you're not going to the playoffs. If you don't beat the Dodgers, you're not going to the World Series. And if you look over at the American League side, I know the first half of the season belonged to the New York Yankees. They somehow are now trying to fight to stay alive. And I've heard people say, "Oh, well, every good team has its downfall streak." Well, how long does the Yankees have the downfall streak, and can they bring that back up by October? The Houston Astros are the only consistent team coming out of the American League, and right now the Houston Astros are the American League team that you have to beat if you want to get to the playoffs, if you want to get to the World Series. And you wonder why these two teams always sit at top of their division. You wonder why these two teams always sit at top as contingency for the World Series. Well, it's simple. They always have players. They have developed players, and they have utility players. I mean, Mookie Betts could have a downfall. I mean, Justin Turner wasn't playing well up until recently. It's not just about you have 7, 10, 15, 25 guys on that roster that is already established. They're established. They already have a resume. When you look at a team like the Phillies, how many players on the Phillies have a resume? Look at the San Diego Padres. The only players on the Padres that has a decent resume is Manny Machado, maybe Juan Soto. You also look into, you wonder why the Reds haven't played so well. Maybe you got to look at how the Dodgers are playing their games. The only person on the Cincinnati Reds currently right now that has any of a resume is Joey Votto. Where is he lined up? So looking into today's games that I'll be listening to, kick things off today with the Mets and Pirates. That's going to be the first game I'm going to listen to until 3:00 with the Yankees and Twins. So that's a playoff implication. The Chicago White Sox and the Seattle Mariners is another playoff implication game. So I'll be diving into those a few games, and then a little later on tonight, checking out the Reds and the Cubs. All right, let's step aside. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll transition into a little bit of football. Matter of fact, we got a lot of football to cover. We'll cover the NFL coming up here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. I thoroughly would like to thank StreamYard Studios, proud home of the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel, for providing all of our shows where you want to create your podcast, YouTube videos, host interviews, and even host virtual business meetings and even conduct interviews. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. Alrighty. Well, something I found interesting for myself, and I never had this moment before, but last Thursday was September 1st, I believe. Yeah, September 1st. Last Thursday, I woke up and it almost hit me as if there was a new, as if it was fall season. Like I said, the heat, the type of heat that we're getting doesn't feel the same from month to month, We had, I sat there and, you go day by day in August, and that 80, 90 degree temperature is it's different. It's a different heat than when you hit September 1st and you start filling into the fall. Sun starts setting. I was calling the Giants and the Dodgers game back on Monday, and it was just already surprising to me. That game started at 7:00, and they're already practically pitch dark out there. And, it's just the sense of football has arrived. And there's just this, it's hard to explain. It's hard, an excitement, energy level that's coming around, especially maybe it's because, where I live at, but you finally have teams that are playing well besides the Reds. And you would like to see them when you have successful teams, you start having the fan base back out. And I know Cincinnati is notorious for the Bengals nation. And I wonder, though, if the Bengals believe that they're in too far over their heads. There was a lot. We knew that the Bengals were going to, eventually become a good team. They're going to be a contenders team. Okay? We knew that they were going to be good last year. We just didn't know to what extent. Now, they surprised a lot of people, even their own fans, the fact that they were capable of going to the Super Bowls. And rightfully so. And you think about, after recovery from, a torn knee with Joe Burrow, you finally pick up Jamar Chase. You had no offensive line. You had probably the most sacks as a quarterback in the postseason in year number one. And you're like, how is this possible? And you still make it to the Super Bowl. And now there's even more expectations for the Bengals this season, and they haven't even started week one. But I don't know if that is something that should be, if people are just getting too far ahead of themselves. You got people around town saying that they're guaranteed the win of the division. Well, I can't guarantee that. Are they a playoff team? Yes. Are they a 10-plus team? Of course. I'm sitting them around 10, 11, 12 wins. But are they a division team, division winners? I wouldn't put it. I'm not saying that they're not division winners, but I'm saying that they're not the only team in the division that has an opportunity at the AFC North. In the entire AFC league, conference, has just gotten 10 times better. I mean, look at what happened. Look at just the impact of Russell Wilson heading over from Seattle to Denver. What type of impact that put on the AFC West? It was a year ago today that the NFC West, with Matthew Stafford, with Kyler Murray, Jimmy Garoppolo, Russell Wilson, that was a division that was dangerous. The AFC West, they have, then Russell Wilson heads over to Denver, and now you have Patrick Mahomes. You have, who is a lot of people projecting going to be MVP this year. You have Justin Herbert, who really showed his, what type of quarterback he was last season. You have Derek Carr, who, in the Raiders. And then you also now have Wilson in the Broncos, that maybe they're not going to be a contending team to win the division or even a postseason. But any team with Russell Wilson is a dangerous team. And you can't exclude the Denver Broncos out of the scenario yet. You take a look into the East. I mean, Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen was only seeming to get better and better and better. You got Miami Dolphins that always surprises you. Bill Belichick and the Patriots want to win. I mean, they traveled down to Miami a week early just to beat the humidity. And then you also have the New York Jets, who, made some sort of trades and picks. And, every year this time, one of the New York teams are projected to have a decent season. They're always keeping the faith. And this year's the Jets. We'll see on that. But then you look at the South, and, with no Deshaun Watson out of Houston, you have Tennessee that's kind of at the end of their peak of their success rate, and then you got Matt Ryan over there in Indianapolis now, and then this is the second year for Trevor Lawrence. The AFC alone is very intriguing, very exciting to watch. And yeah, you have the Cleveland Browns, and we'll dive into that more in hour number 2. With everything that's going on, they'll be getting a chance to go over to Carolina this weekend and facing the Panthers against Baker Mayfield. Man, Cleveland Browns probably going to be if I have to choose the worst team, I know it's between the Jets and for me, I mean, I'll say the Jets, the Jags, or the Browns being the worst team in the AFC this season. And then, one thing that always gets to me, and I'll explain more, but whenever you have 2 to 3 quarterbacks trying to fight for a position to be the starter for week 1 throughout preseason, it's never a good sign. So if you're Cincinnati, don't sit on a championship, a division win yet this year. Don't sit on an AFC champion conference win this year quite yet. You have a lot of great potential. All right. I think a lot of people are not looking at the Baltimore Ravens that, if things go the right way, they could be very well into this as well. And you look at the schedule, and you get a kickoff right away against the Steelers, which is great this Sunday, Paycor Stadium. Then you got to go to Dallas and face the Cowboys. That's exciting. And then you got to go to New York Jets. And you saw what happened last time when the Bengals went to the Jets. So we'll dive more into the schedule as the schedule moves on. What I'm thinking about doing is tomorrow, I want to give you my top 10 quarterbacks for tomorrow. I want to give you my division predictions for tomorrow. Talk about the Bills and the Rams, which kicks off Thursday Night Football tomorrow night. And the teams that I'm excited to watch and to tune in for. But hour number 2, this is what I have in store for you today. I want to dive into the AFC North. I want to give you more of intel about my thoughts on the AFC North and why the Bengals shouldn't be sitting on a guaranteed win of the division quite yet. They still have a lot to overcome. And this is a bigger year than ever because they went the furthest without having anything on their side. You had a terrible offensive line. You didn't know how Joe Burrow was going to recover and play through his recovery. And then you didn't know how the chemistry was going to work with some of these guys. Now, obviously, not every guy is back, but at the same time, you also have to consider and look into. You fix the offensive line. There's just a lot of things that break down for the Cincinnati Bengals. So let's dive into that hour number 2. We're taking you guys up until 11. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Throw-In with Justin right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Hour number 2 here on the Throw-In with Justin. We'll take you guys up until 11 o'clock. And we'll be back again tomorrow, 9 a.m. Trying to set a 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. schedule Monday through Fridays. Wasn't on yesterday because I was calling the baseball game on Monday night. I don't know if you guys tuned into that. If you guys wanted to listen to it, you guys could go back and listen to that Dodgers and Giants game on Monday night. But when I call a nighttime game and I don't get done until 2 o'clock in the morning, it becomes a little bit strainful to get up early in the morning and to produce a show. And so we're getting back in the swing of things. I know on the video side of things, you guys are listening audio, but there's no commercials in place. I'm currently working on that, and hopefully we could get that figured out over the next few weeks and get something for your guys' entertainment so you guys know when there is a break in between the action. And so we're just trying to play things out. You guys got suggestions, you guys got ideas, let me know. I'm always open to creativity, subjects, topics, and all that stuff. AEW Dynamite is coming. It's live tonight. It's Wednesday, and this week's already kind of gone by fast, having a 3-day weekend, including Labor Day, and then started the week off yesterday, and doesn't feel like Wednesday today, but shoot, we're already in September. College football started. And we'll talk a little bit more probably later on this week about college football and the college football playoffs expansion that's coming to the 2026 season, expanding it from 4 to 12 teams. So if you guys heard about that, that actually got reported earlier this week. But, we're just a little less than, I want to say about 36 hours or so away from NFL opening day between the Bills and the Rams. And, I don't want to give you guys my biased opinion, but, me being a Rams fan coming down from California, it was, I'll tell you the story. When I grew up in San Diego, I became, so by nature, I was a Charger fan because that's what the team was in San Diego. It was the San Diego Chargers. The problem I had with the San Diego Chargers is that they weren't a bad team. Drew Brees, LaDainian Tomlinson, Sean Merriman, Darren Sproles, Nate Kidding, Phillip Rivers. They weren't a bad team. I really enjoyed. Vincent Jackson, they're really, really good team. When they went to the playoffs, though, as a matter of fact, there was one point where I even considered the Chargers as good as the Steelers. I was considering them just as good as the Steelers, the Colts, and the Patriots growing up. But see, I was only looking from San Diego on out. I never looked on any other teams beyond San Diego for most of my childhood days. So it was by nature that I was a Chargers fan. It was by nature that I was a San Diego Padres fan. And it was by nature that I was a San Diego Aztec fan. Never went to the college. Maybe that's why I'm not as big about the college sports as is. But when you have, it's as difficult to be behind teams in your area when they just don't win. And when the Chargers and the Spanos family decided that they were going to ship up to Los Angeles copying the Rams, and I knew from the beginning it was going to be a disaster, and it has been so far, and I'll give the Chargers credit that, listen, I'm never going to be a Chargers fan again, not because of the of the Chargers moving up to the Los Angeles area, but it's because of the simple fact that the Spanos family abandoned us. All right, when this was several teams trying to relocate. The Rams got it was three teams fighting for LA. It was the Raiders, it was the Rams, and it was the Chargers. One team wanted to go back to LA. The Rams, Stan Kroenke and the Rams, picked up from St. Louis and they moved back to LA, which I thought was the best thing in the world. And then the Chargers wanted to move right behind them, and I never agreed with that. They thought it was more of an economics dispute. They weren't getting a new stadium from Qualcomm, from SDDCU Stadium, and there was a lot of people laughing about it. Hey, let's get the Raiders down here in San Diego. You'll be fine. Let's bring in the Jacksonville Jaguars. They want to relocate. It's still very disappointing that there's no professional football team in San Diego. It's a beautiful city, but I could just never be a Chargers fan because of the Spanos. Now, listen, I think that they have a really good, talented team. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of people out there saying that they probably have one of the best teams on paper, but I don't know if they could beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I guess that's my point. But that's how I became a Rams fan, because listen, when a team up and moves from your area, I think it's rightfully so that you have a chance to change your team as well. And I liked how the Rams win, and I think they've been solid. They've been more consistent as of late. They've been in the playoffs. They've been in the Super Bowl twice, winning it last year finally. They want to make a repeat. Now, I don't know, I'm not trying to be biased. I don't know how they're going to do this year, but, they also don't have a division. And then we'll talk more about that tomorrow. They don't really have a division that they can really go off of should be no reason why they're taking the division. I mean, maybe the 49ers, but they got quarterback problems. So we'll talk more about that. But I want to dive into here is more about the Cincinnati Bengals. All right. My fear is I don't want people to get too worked up on just because on the result from last year and thinking that they have what it takes. They do. Don't get me wrong. The Bengals have what it takes to go to the distance again. But I've already explained to you in the last hour just how good the AFC is going to be this year. And I can see the Bengals winning 10 to 12 games this season, and I think that's pretty solid. I think that's fair to say. But there are other teams in the division I think people are overlooking. And just because we haven't heard from the Baltimore Ravens in the last year, doesn't mean that they don't exist. So I want to dive into the AFC North a little bit. Now, here's what my plan is for tomorrow on this show. All right, there's going to be a little bit of talk and a little bit of room for talk for AEW highlights. All right, MJF here, CM Punk possibly hurt. There's a lot of feuds apparently rumors about feuds going on in AEW, especially with the AEW World Champion, CM Punk, after he just returned, and there's proclaimed to be injuries and left and right. I'm just I'm living them as rumors as so. And just wait for it to watch out, because there's rumors every day about everything. But we'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow. Okay, the AEW is on tonight. Tomorrow I want to focus a lot on the NFL, the Bills and the Rams getting ready to play tomorrow night. You have I want to give you my predictions for the divisions, and I'd also like to bring back the pick them. All right, where each and every week I pick teams. Every team, every game that's going on every week, I'll pick who I think is going to win. Now, I am indecisive if I'm going to pick all games tomorrow, or if I'm just going to choose the Bills and the Rams and then pick the rest on Friday. But so that's what the plan is tomorrow. I also have a top 10 quarterback that I would like to give you tomorrow as well. And there's a couple teams that I think are going to surprise us or that could surprise us this year. And there's a couple teams I think that are going to be too good that I don't think are going to be good. And I'll explain more about that tomorrow. So that's what we have planned for tomorrow. But let's go ahead and dive into the AFC North. See, here's the problem. Let's start off with the Cleveland Browns. Okay, there was only one person that walked away satisfied with everything that happened. All right, I think it's fair enough to say that the Cleveland Browns have probably had the most dramatic off season there was. All right, you had Baker Mayfield and the controversy with Baker Mayfield throughout the last season and the off season, wanting to be traded. Especially, and who blames him? Who wants to be a second string quarterback back up to Deshaun Watson? And, the Cleveland Browns decide that they're going to go sign Deshaun Watson, not knowing pending allegations of getting massages in 24 plus women in the state of Texas. So Cleveland knew that there was going to be pending the pending action against him. Obviously, court systems never approved or never denied him. So what did that lead into? Well, the NFL had to take action. Now, I do not agree of the current suspensions that he has now. I think it's about 10, 11 games, which will take him until Thanksgiving break, or at least the Thanksgiving era. And that means that the Browns are going to be missing 2/3 of the season. So this doesn't help Deshaun Watson's case. It doesn't help the Cleveland Browns case. Matter of fact, you're going to go off of a backup quarterback for the next 10 weeks. That is, quite frankly, you could almost assume and make that assumption that the Browns will be finishing in last place this season. Then don't forget that the Browns are now going into Carolina, who they finally traded Baker Mayfield to, and Baker Mayfield gets to start against the Browns this Sunday at home. I think that's just irony, a little bit of irony there. But how can you're not expecting nothing coming from the Browns this season. Not without Deshaun Watson at the reins for a solid entire season. Who knows what type of condition or what type of shape he's going to be ready for when it does come down to Thanksgiving and he is finally able to play. Who knows if they're even going to allow him to play. Now, I believe that he should be suspended for at least 3 to 5 years. All right. Once that suspension was out, I was furious that there are people who got caught smoking weed who get suspended for 5 years. And then this guy is committing, whether he's guilty or not guilty, he's committing sexual assault or at least has sexual assault charges on him. And the NFL is only punishing him for 11 games and a fine. There goes my payday for the year. I don't care. Browns in worse of trouble. Probably the worst decisions ever made this year. Couldn't get any worse than this. And, yet again, people are staying optimistic about the Browns, which I can't support. I can't support the Browns' decision. I can't just support Deshaun Watson. And as long as Deshaun Watson is on any team, that's the team I'm not going to support. And as a matter of fact, that's the team I'm going to root every team against. It would be interesting to see me select a team, the Cleveland Browns, to beat a team this year. Now, I know I'm already setting myself up for disaster and losing teams, but come on. Let's dive into the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Let's talk about when a quarterback. Here's the problem that I run into when it comes down to the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is the first year out of the Ben Roethlisberger era. Okay, now for me, I've come to respect Ben Roethlisberger and what he's done, and I'm kind of saddened to see Big Ben leave and finally retire. I think it's respected. I think he deserves it. He deserves to ride off into the sunset. He was capable of taking his team to the playoff one more year. And now we get to see just how good Thompson is. And he's never, you got to remember that that Thompson's never had a losing season with the Steelers or at all in his professional coaching career. But when you go into the preseason with 3 potential starting quarterbacks, Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, there's already a red flag there. It's not like baseball where you have too many good pitchers and there's good problems. No, this is not a positive problem. When you go into preseason, you need to establish your starting quarterback, because especially early on, because you need him to have most of the snaps with the starting roster on your team. And it's all about building. It's also about having the most practices with the starting receivers, the starting linemen. I mean, there is a chemistry that's formulated with your starting quarterback. When you have the backup quarterbacks, they don't mix. And when you don't have that established, all right, until last week or after preseason ends, that's not enough time to get ready. Now we know Mason Rudolph is nothing but a second, if not third string quarterback. For what reason? Why the Steelers are they picked up Kenny Pickett in the draft? God knows me. I mean, out of all teams, I think Pickett is fine in Pittsburgh. But the problem I have with Pickett is he should be a starter. He should be a starter coming in on Sunday against the Bengals, and yet you have Mitchell Trubisky. Now, there's a way that I think when it comes down to NFL quarterbacks. Now, the way that I believe should always happen, and we haven't seen this lately, and we probably never will see this again, is that you should always have a starting quarterback. Right? When Ben was ready to leave, he should have signed a smaller contract to stay behind to teach the new quarterbacks, especially the younger ones, Kenny Pickett, for example, to teach them how to play Pittsburgh football. You go dive into Pittsburgh, all right? I'm sure Steelers fans will tell me this left and blue. It is a Steeler Nation in Pittsburgh is a big entity. Right? They take a lot of pride into football, whether it's college level, whether it's professional level. The Steelers are Steeler fans. They don't have much room for failures. Okay, yet again, this is an organization that has had very few failures. All right, I remember living in California, and each time the Steelers come into San Diego, there were more black and yellow than there was blue and gold. Every game. So there's more. Steelers do not accept failure. And when you bring in someone from the outside in, trying to learn Steelers way, trying to learn the Pittsburgh Steelers way of football, it just doesn't mix. It takes some time to adjust. And my question is that, are fans really supportive of what's being done? Throwing Trubisky, I'm not saying it's a terrible idea, but we know that the starting role belongs to Kenny Pickett. And yet again, there's no Big Ben to teach him. He's picked him up in the middle of the round. I don't know what people don't see in him. So there's already red flag. And I question the chemistry that this team has with their starting quarterback. I'm not going to rule out the Steelers from a playoff potential season. They may even have a winning season this year. But the one thing that I will rule out is that it's going to be a very difficult season for the Steelers. All right. You're thinking about 4 or 5 weeks into it before the Steelers go out and they probably throw in Pickett, maybe even week 2 if things don't work out this Sunday. I feel like the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to play the Bengals and see how it goes, maybe implicate, depending how things go with the, between Mitchell Trubisky and Kenny Pickett. But at the end of the day, if Pickett was your guy, you need to get him in there. Get him in there as soon as possible. Start learning these receivers. Start picking up, learning how, building chemistry with these guys and learning Pittsburgh football way. So I'm a little lost, and I want to finish up on this last couple of things with the Baltimore Ravens. I know that right now that the Ravens have some complications with Lamar Jackson in the quarterback slot. All right. Now, there's this dispute of this contract negotiation that, listen, Baltimore's going to pay Lamar Jackson whatever he wants, and what they're trying to do is wait off as long as possible. Well, let's be honest. Today, when Lamar Jackson goes to practice, he should be sitting on the sideline and says, hey, listen, until this negotiation is completed, I'm not playing. We'll see how fast the Ravens can get something done across the table. But I think, Ray, I think at the end of the day that Lamar Jackson should just be signing that $160 million contract and getting back on the field and playing some football. See, the problem is that for the Bengals is that the Ravens could work one of two ways. One, the Ravens, if they figure out this contract deal with Lamar Jackson, he has nothing else to worry about other than coming to the field, to the practice, to going to the stadiums and playing football. The Ravens could be a very, very dangerous team. At which point, if that's the case, then it's a very certainty. There's a good chance that the Ravens could win the division this year. Nothing knocked them out last year. But if there's, this contract, this quarterback dispute is still going on, and there's something on the table that hasn't been accomplished yet, and yet we're still sitting here on week 2, week 3, and we're trying to figure that out now. Listen, that's the weirdness that could happen in the AFC North. That's what could get the Cincinnati Bengals on the top over the edge. The problem that I have, all right, with the Bengals is that I want the Bengals to do good this year. I want the Bengals to succeed, to win the division, to go back to the playoffs and win the AFC championship. I want them to go back to the Super Bowl. I think a lot of fans want that to happen this year. It's tendencies that I have to hold myself back from seeing that the Bengals just possibly might not get back in there. You know why? Because the teams that don't go, there are very few teams that don't go back to the playoffs after a Super Bowl run. I'm not saying that the Bengals are not one of them, but see, this bar of expectation is already set high. If you're for Cincinnati, this expectation of winning is set high for Cincinnati fans and for Cincinnati players. All right, you went out, you've done your due diligence by picking out offensive linemen. All right, you have your receivers, you have your quarterback, you have your running back, you got your defense, you got everything lined up for you. Now you got to execute. You did it 1 year. You did it 1 year because you had something to prove. All right, Joe Burrow had to come back healthy. He had something to prove. Jamar Chase wanted to make an impact on his rookie year. He had something to prove. This defense was always underestimated. They had something to prove. Now they've already proven it. there's a difference between being confident and actually succeeding, or being cocky and letting it get to the best of them. That's what I'm intrigued to find out this week, this Sunday, when they face the Steelers. What type of Bengals team are you going to see throughout the entire season, especially with the AFC being how it is now? What type of Bengals are you going to see? Very, very big division. Matter of fact, to me, in my books, the AFC West is the number one division to watch out for, right? The Chiefs, the Chargers, the Raiders, and the Broncos. All because of those quarterbacks. The Chargers seem to have the best team on paper. But then you got to go up against Patrick Mahomes, who's been to the playoffs the last, 6-7 years, or ever since he's gotten to the NFL. I mean, don't forget the Raiders, who's always been contingencies. They made it last year. And then the Broncos, with now Russell Wilson, you can't rule them out. We'll get more into that tomorrow. The AFC North is the second division that is going to be the toughest division, in my opinion. Give me a division out there right now that is better than the AFC North beyond the AFC West. Maybe the NFC West. I'll throw it out there. All right, we got to cut to a break. But that's my take on the AFC North, the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not saying that they're not playoff worthy. I'm not saying that they don't have a good chance of winning the division. But things work astride. You see, in Pittsburgh, they've had a tendency over the last 20 years of having a winning record. They made it to the playoffs last year. If the Ravens could settle down, figure some things out with the contract, who knows what the Ravens could put up there also. I mean, who knows? Maybe the second string quarterback for the Browns will be perfectly fine, and they could give the Browns a fighting chance also. Maybe Baker Mayfield leaving Cleveland was the best thing for the Browns, period. We'll find out coming this Sunday. All right, let's take a break. Let's step aside. We'll take you up until 11 o'clock. Thank you guys for watching The Throne with Justin right here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube. TNC Sports Talk would like to give a shout out to Epidemic Sound. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find your perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com today. All right, it feels good to be back on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Some things that we're adjusting to over the next few days. So bear with us as we get back into the swing of things. Like I said, we'll be back here tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 11, 2-hour episodes. And, it's going to be a routine. So if there's a baseball game that we call on like Sunday night that leads into past midnight, I'm not doing a show Monday morning. It's just, they're asking me to get back up within a few hours of sleep and put on 2 hours of show. And, I take a lot of pride in putting my best work and effort down here on this program. So I want nothing but the best, nothing but the utmost, the best work content I could provide for you. Football is here. Fall time is approaching. Baseball's the road to the pennant race is upon us here in the month of September. We talk a lot about baseball. We talk a lot about football, and there's always that sense of talking about professional wrestling that sometimes there can be dull moments. And ever since SummerSlam, I'm going to put it that way. Ever since SummerSlam, there has been a sense of urgency of trying to pay attention and to, tune in to at least either, if you can't watch it live, watch the highlights of professional wrestling. And especially as of late, trying to watch this new, founded era of the WWE. And it's been a long time. It's been quite some time since I've really had an opportunity to talk about my thoughts and my opinions and everything that's going on, especially in the world of the WWE. Now, I know AEW is on tonight, and we could talk about CM Punk showing up, talk about MJF being there, whatever the case may be. But I think the highlight of the summer had to be in the WWE, had to be, Triple H, in a sense, taking over the reins, trying to improve the product that you see out there on the screen. And obviously there's some big shoes that he has to fill, and he's making the best of what he could do. And I really enjoy, appreciate what he has put out there so far. I think there's a lot of stuff that has to happen to get the WWE back to the way that it was. I want to say maybe even 5-6 years ago, where it was an actual entertaining product. And he's taken those first steps, and he's righting the wrong with some of these athletes. You see all the, we see Johnny Gargano returning, Braun Strowman, Dakota Kai, Io Shirai, Hit Row. And I really, these are guys that didn't deserve to be released from the beginning. I know we were sitting here a year ago complaining, left and right about what in the world is the WWE doing by releasing half of their talent roster. Here is where I find it difficult. I want to get more into it, but here's where I find complications, because when you're down at NXT and you're running products, you're actually creating a name for yourself. And I want to ask you guys, is there a certain level where if you don't get promoted to the main roster in the WWE, that your time is just beyond means, and that separation, you sometimes have to depart from the company? We thought, or at least I thought, that Dakota Kai should have got brought up before her released, and she should have got brought up with Raquel Gonzalez, who is now Raquel Rodriguez on SmackDown. And I thought that was a great 1-2 combination for the women's tag team division on the main roster, looking to spice things up. And then they released Dakota Kai, and now they brought her back. And great, she's now thriving in the WWE. But see, what ends up happening is that these guys, all right, for example, Tommaso Ciampa, I won't say Austin Theory, but Johnny Gargano, most certainly, they all are thriving in NXT. They are hitting their peak, and then they get brought up to the main roster, and it's as if they don't know what to do with these superstars. I'm not saying that all the releases that happened over the last 2 years wasn't necessary, and I really appreciate Triple H bringing some of these guys back, because if you could write them in, great. But there's two thoughts that I have. One is, sometimes if you're in NXT, I think that if you're in NXT too long, right, and you've already hit your peak and there's just nothing left for you, what do you think that there's going to be different in the WWE? Here's a great example. The Undisputed Era was thriving tenfold in NXT. They reached the mountaintop, and they reached the peak of their NXT reign, right? There's only so much you could do in NXT. Undisputed Era rose to the top. They dominated for a few years, and then you started to see it all crumble because they had nothing left in NXT. And instead of, right when that peak hit, instead of bumping them up to the main roster, they just stayed there. They stayed there, and to the point where they had to be released. And then you see what happens. Now they're in AEW, thriving as well. So my question is to you, is that even if, if they waited, if the time frame was the same, and instead of releasing the Undisputed Era, they brought them up to the WWE, was there any way to really bring them to the top of the WWE. See, what ended up what should have happened, at least what I think should have happened, was when Undisputed Era reached the peak of NXT, they should have went over to WWE, in this case maybe Monday Night Raw, and reached the peak of Monday Night Raw. They should have brought the NXT titles. They should have brought the NXT tag team titles. They should have brought the North American Championship to Monday Night Raw. They should have reigned Monday Night Raw for that time frame until they were dethroned. So my thing is that Johnny Gargano had a success story in NXT. He gets released, and now he's back in WWE, and now he's on Monday Night Raw, and he's supposed to be in action next week, and I think that's great. I think bringing him back, he deserves to be on the main roster. But realistically, what storylines do you see Johnny Gargano filling right now? And are you really, and let me ask you this, are you also even satisfied with how they're using Tommaso Ciampa? This was a guy who was NXT champion earlier this year. And now he's kind of playing this I've never seen Tommaso Ciampa under the wing of somebody. And he's already an established athlete. He's already a talented superstar as is. Why does he need to sit behind The Miz and follow The Miz around while The Miz gets the spotlight? I think, there's some strategies that has to be put into place. I think right now, what would really help the WWE with Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa is by the end of the year, bring back DIY for the main roster. Think about new challenging opponents. That tag team division in the WWE really needs some help. Yeah, you got Hit Row, but we've seen a lot of the New Day. We've seen a lot of Sheamus. We've seen a lot of the Street Profits. And we've seen a lot of the Usos. Get some new, fresh talent in there, and I think we'd be satisfied enough. But I really enjoy overall Triple H, trying to right the wrong over the last, few weeks. And there's a lot of work that has to be done. My bigger question is Triple H a short-term solution, or is he a long-term solution? You see, WWE, at least through my eyes, has been more of a business enterprise over this last decade than a wrestling promotion. When you think about all the contracts and all the out-of-network contracts that WWE has had, they focused in on being of the sponsors. They focused in on the business, dealing up with Peacock and the USA Network and Fox. And what you saw was over the last 10 years, you end up seeing the business aspect taking over the actual product, right? The television crew, the different angles. And one thing that I heard earlier this year on the Busted Open podcast, and I believe that other people have mentioned this in other words, is that when the WWE, let me put it this way, in order to run a successful wrestling promotion, you got to have wrestlers or previous wrestlers behind that promotion, working in the production studio, working with the television crew, working with the story writers, and all of the above in order to be a successful wrestling company. Why is AEW still on the map and still thriving? Not just because it's still a new product. It still very is, and there's still plenty of people that haven't heard of AEW, but they've also have wrestling crews. They also have wrestlers involved in the programs, producing the programs. And that's one thing that the WWE has lacked over the last few years is that everything's been more of a business aspect. You don't have the wrestling experience behind the production team. That's one thing that's starting to change. That's one thing you're starting to see exciting. This whole PG 14 is starting to get interesting, and what I like the most about it is that they're using the guys like The Miz and like Dolph Ziggler to really help emphasize that the PG 14. Triple H has a lot of work left to be done. It's not going to happen. It's not going to resolve overnight, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the world of wrestling, especially in the WWE. My question is, and my thought is that this is working for now, and I don't think there's anyone that would have ever been a perfect spot to take over unless it was Triple H. He was the only person that really in the rightful mind was capable of handling this at a last minute decision or, off the top of your head. But is this the long-term decision for the WWE? That is my question. It's great what he's running, but is this something that's going to stick for the next 3 to 5 years, if not 5 to 10 years? Or are we going to is this a temporary solution that we're going to see someone until, it's only a temporary solution until we see the original and the next owners or the next, control of CEOs step in and take reign. All right, we're going to take our last time out, and we're going to come back and finish off with a little bit of AEW talk. Are you guys happy with CM Punk as your AEW champion? I'll tell you why I'm not here in a minute. You guys are listening to The Throw-In with Justin here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All right, wrapping up first episode of the week here. I'm really taking a long break from the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. You guys can find this episode here right afterwards. I'm going to be downloading it and submitting it through Spreaker, our audio platforms, which right now I believe is on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all that stuff. So if you miss any of today's action, you could head on back over and listen to us on YouTube, or you guys could check us out and take us on the road with you wherever you go. And, I don't really want to go too deep into Monday Night Raw, just a couple of fun things we'll, get a chance to bring up later on this week or in next week. Austin Theory, he's kind of been on that down cycle since winning the Money in the Bank. Where does it take him? I can't quite tell you. I'm kind of disappointed that, the rise of Theory is now the fall of Theory. Dominic turns on Rey Mysterio, something that's been talked about numerous times and times again. And I think that is just, he joins the Judgment Day, and I tell you this, listen, I think that Dominic needs to step away from his father. He's going to have a one-on-one match with Edge on Monday night, and we'll talk more about that. And I think this is good for Dominic, getting a chance to step away, and it's going to be interesting with this PG-14 era back to see where exactly how they take this storyline. I like to see him go pretty intense with it. I would love to see that. And then also that, hey, listen, steel cage match. How often do you get a steel cage match on Monday Night Raw for the U.S. title? And, Loomis runs in, sabotages him. That was just a few of the highlights over there on Monday Night Raw. You got AEW Dynamite tonight, and MJF is coming back, man. I'm excited. I'm thrilled. I can't be more excited to see him come back. Hey, he's a moneymaker. You're gonna tune in. You're gonna just watch him, and you want to listen to what he has to say and what he has to do. All right, and for a while back we thought he was done. We thought he was walking out on AEW. He's gonna head over to WWE. That still may be the possibility down the road, but right now, MJF, it's all AEW, and right now he's going to help the AEW numbers. He's going to help AEW in the viewership and making money. And that's all about for a company. Talking about making money, and it's because you're making a lot of money with CM Punk. Now, I'm not a fan of either Jon Moxley or CM Punk winning the AEW interim championship. Now, Jon Moxley, I feel like that title run was kind of shortened. Would have liked to see it a little longer. Matter of fact, I would have liked to see that AEW championship run. Have Moxley even face a guy like Bryan Danielson. But we put the title back on CM Punk, and there's a lot of rumors, and then that's all they're going to be is just rumors about CM Punk. Having feuds with the backstage, talent and AEW, and there's been reports of him possibly walking out left and right. There's new reports coming out that he's injured. That the confrontation with the Elite, he got hurt. The Elite's threatening to walk out, and I don't know if this is new. I kind of like whether this is real or fake. I like the idea of just the backstage heat between each other. It kind of makes you like, all right, what's actually happening on AEW tonight. And what's also interesting with AEW and these heats is that they bring that out there to the stage. And sometimes what you like to know is that in the WWE, you kind of figure that everything that is given to you on the screen is, I wouldn't say rehearsed, but it is all staged, right? There is more gimmick to it. There's more pretending, imagination. All right, use your imagination that these people hate each other. Well, in AEW, you really don't know what people like, what people don't like. Are they really friends in the backstage area? And I like the concept of the feud going on between these guys in the backstage area. It makes it more realistic when you bring that out to the ring and you have these feuds in real life. So in a sense, although even if it's real, I just don't want no one to get hurt. But if it's fake, if it's not real, listen, bring some of that out. It helps the feud. You need some feud with CM Punk. I'm not a fan of CM Punk winning that AEW championship, but here's my theory and here's my thoughts on it before we wrap up the show. CM Punk, I feel like everything should come back around into a complete circle, right? You should never leave anything untold. CM Punk and MJF have stories untold, right? Between CM Punk and MJF, between MJF and Wardlow, right? There are stories untold. I would like to honestly say, and Wardlow even announced when CM Punk got hurt, saying, hey, I'm going to go after CM Punk. I'm going to go after the AEW championship when CM Punk returns. And so what I would like to see is CM Punk and Wardlow, CM Punk and MJF. As a matter of fact, something we haven't seen is CM Punk and MJF for that championship. I haven't seen that AEW championship on MJF, and I would like to see that happen. And then to make that circle complete again, Wardlow becomes AEW champion by beating MJF. I don't know, just thoughts and of the process of what I think should and shouldn't happen in AEW. But that is, yet again, we'll see more of that unveils tonight as AEW Dynamite kicks away. Like I said, we will be back again tomorrow. Make sure you tune into us tomorrow, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. We'll be breaking down more of the NFL division predictions, who will win each division, who will make it to the wild card. Also, I'll give you my top 10 quarterbacks and start picking each and every game as we get ready for the Bills and for the Los Angeles Rams. All right. So appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys like our episode, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Don't miss a single episode weekdays for you guys. And be sure to listen to us on audio platforms as well. Then that will be it for our show today. Thank you guys for tuning in to Throw In with Justin. Until then, you guys have been listening to the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. I'd like to give a shout out to Epidemic Sound for providing the music for today. Epidemic Sound, discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Also like to give a shout out to StreamYard, the proud studio home of the TNC Sports Talk. If you guys are looking to create your own podcast, YouTube videos, host virtual business meetings, and conduct interviews, check out StreamYard.com. Until tomorrow, you guys all have a wonderful day.